I mean, it's Kevin O'Connell, 2024 NFL Coach of the Year. And, even though things ended, and I've heard some of your interviews, around the Super Bowl and stuff
Yeah.
like that, where you're like, I've watched back the Detroit game and the Rams game more than 10 times each, something like that. So there is a masochistic
That
side.
number has grown, by
Has
the
it
way.
still? Well, it's even though it ended like that, Liam Cohen.
Yeah, there he is.
Don't leave Duval. Don't leave home without him. All right, 3-2. Even though it ended negatively, thank you for as the leader. And I know that it's the ultimate team game, and a lot goes into it. Free agency was great last year, stuff like that. So from there to the end of it, ended negatively. There were so many positive steps taken last year. If you can just take a deep breath and stop watching that Detroit and Rams stuff and recognize the positive steps that were taken were kind of exponential. So thank you for that. We really enjoyed ourselves. And what positive steps did you see now that you're able to settle in a little bit?
Yeah, well, first of all, good to be on with you guys here. Always enjoy seeing you. Appreciate you making the trip to wonderful Indianapolis. But, yeah, I just, in reflection mode, I always think it's important, to work backwards from the things that you personally, can improve on. And there's 1,000 things that I want to continue growing in my role leading our coaching staff, obviously with a great group of players. Our team in 2024 was as unique of a football team as I've had a chance to be around. I remember it like it was yesterday, being in the office a few days before training camp started, PA, and deciding that I believed in this team. And I'd been telling them throughout the spring, this is the steps we need to take to prepare ourselves for the opportunity to have a great training camp. But it was upon us. It was here. And I really put a lot of thought into that first team meeting of, in a lot of ways, defiantly challenging them to believe what I believed. Talked to a few of our leaders, Harrison Smith and Justin Jefferson and different players, C.J. Ham, Andrew DePaula. And I said, look, I'm going to be leaning on you guys from the moment this meeting ends to echo this message on a minute-to-minute basis for the next 7 months, really. And it will not stop. It will not change regardless of how, whatever bumps in the road may lie ahead for us. And I think they believed me that day. And I remember making eye contact with guys throughout the auditorium and feeling like we were about to have a great training camp, and then let's see where this thing goes. And that's what I've learned so far in 3 years, is every year is its own. We've got to earn the right to feel like we can go compete for 17-plus weeks, and we've got to be willing to go through a lot of things in that journey together and make sure we're constantly chasing improvement. And that's the name of the game in this thing. And how I get to see you weekly throughout the season, and not all Tuesdays are created equal. And we go back to work every single day, and that's what we're doing right now. But a lot of positives. Yeah. And then more than anything, though, I see a clear path to where we need to go in the future.
Winning the Super Bowl and then as a coach, a coordinator, whatever, then becoming a head coach.
Yeah.
It can be a double-edged sword.
Yep.
Because you know what it feels and sometimes, and I'm guessing here, and I've never talked to you about this, I sense you let yourself smell it last year. Like, wow, we might have one, because it's so hard to get there and win it, as you know.
Yeah.
And then when it ends the way it did, the fall is going to be more precipitous, right?
Yeah, and I think, Kellen Moore called me a few days back, and, he asked me, how'd you do it? Because I haven't slept in 4 days, and, I feel like, since the parade in Philadelphia, I haven't, really even felt like my feet were on the ground. I've been moving so quick, and I told him it's going to be the hardest year of your life, but stay true to what you want to build and understand you're building something not only for this year and beyond, but it is, and you find it every year. And a huge goal, this because, privately I've shared this with you and on air. It was important for two things for the 2024 season for me as the head coach. I wanted to get back to winning at home.
Yeah.
We were able to do that. I wanted to win in December because I felt like the previous year when we got to 6-4, even with the circumstances around the injuries and the quarterback position, I felt like we could have finished better, regardless of circumstance. And now when I reflect and look at it, you got to understand that so many little things need to happen throughout that run. And it starts with playing, getting off to a good start in that playoff game. It starts with execution. It starts with, coaching a little bit better. Everybody that much more dialed in. And whatever we thought or we perceived to be the standard, it needs to elevate. We got to do more. And that's where we get an opportunity now of having, had our boots on the ground in those moments and knowing that they will come again and we'll be prepared in that moment.
How do you fight the urge to not do too much?
It's not too much. You got to understand what is my process, what is our process as a coaching staff. How do we fully, acknowledge everything, both the positives and negatives from 2024. The facts are the facts. We won from the time we reported to training camp. We won. We won a lot of football games.
Yep.
We lost to 2 teams twice. And what happened in those games, it's very easy to try to say, I want to have this grand hypothesis of exactly why it happened. But sometimes it's a bunch of little things. Sometimes it's a better play call I could have made here or there, or can we get off the field on a third down here or there? Can we put the ball in the end zone in a late in a drive in a critical moment in the game? And then you look back, and even after things maybe didn't go your way, Pete, you're still, if we would have just done this in that moment in the third quarter, it's a 1-score game, or it's a tie game, or we have the lead against Detroit maybe late in that game. And what does that look like in an environment like that where that thing goes down to the wire? And you reflect and you understand that you don't do too much by making sure you're brutally honest with yourself first. Okay. And then you set out on a path to make sure that you're constantly improving. I want to be better this offseason for our football team than I have been the previous 3, all while knowing we've done a lot of good things. We've done a lot of things that I think translate to what we want to do moving forward. But there's areas of our team, there's areas of my preparation for our team that I want to continue to improve at, and there's always that hunger to get better. It just has to be that way.
You and I are speaking together at a school in 3 weeks, and
we are.
The theme is maintaining sustainable organizations. Maintaining sustainability.
Yes.
So what are some keys to sustaining a winning organization here?
First of all, I believe all experience matters. So when I say that, it can't just be pounding our chest, hey, we've won 34 games or whatever it's been in 3 years. That is not a given for one moment moving forward. None of those experiences, although we feel like we've built a great culture, we feel like we've got a phenomenal organization, we feel like we've built the right kind of atmosphere for the players to thrive and try to become the best versions of themselves. But what does it look like in 2025? What does it look like on how we prepare this team, which is going to be one of one? This team is going to be different than any team we've had previously, and in future years that those teams will be different as well. We've got to earn the right by the work we put in as coaches to develop our mentality for our entire team for this season, how we prepare schematically, the advancements and the adjustments and the things we want to make sure we don't allow to be weaknesses. If they were in 2024, we've got to make sure that we shut that off and we prove to people that we can play different ways and adapt and change as we go. And that's what's sustainable. It's the process is sustainable. The people that we keep pouring into are sustainable, and you just got to keep giving yourself ops and be ready for those ops when they come.
Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings from the 2025 Indianapolis Combine.
How much does continuity come into that? And by continuity, I'm talking about just the coaches and the staff around you, because for the most part, you've kept everybody intact.
Yeah.
Going into your second or third or even fourth year with some of those guys, the GM, the scouts.
Yep.
How much does that help in your ability to take it to that next level?
I think the biggest thing, there's a couple layers to it. As coaches, going into year 3 with Brian Flores and how him and our relationship has grown to the point where we spend a lot of time together. We talk about, the makeup of our team, and that does bleed into the personnel side of things. What kind of football players do we want? What kind of football players do we want to add to the group of our core players that we feel very strongly about? It's the dialogue with those players. I spend every season, a bunch of coaches around here always ask me, do you really do that? I meet with every single player over the course of the 24 to 48 hours after our season, ends in a one-on-one capacity, and as much time as that takes, I want them to be able to communicate with me the positives they feel, areas that they personally want to improve, areas that they feel I can improve for them. It's all about that personal responsibility of me being authentic in myself every single day and delivering that in a way to our players where they want to engage in that sort of dialogue. Because I know every year I have a 100-page notebook I start out those meetings with, and it's full by the time that we wrap up. And I'm exhausted after that because each and every one of those guys, it's one meeting for them. It's 70-plus for me when you consider IR guys, practice squad guys, and everything. But you get a great picture of exactly the truth. You find the truth of how guys are viewing what it's like to be a Minnesota Viking, what their own individual path is going to look like. And then I can challenge, I can challenge some of our best players. This is where I see you going, and this is how we're going to do it. I can challenge a rookie, a young player, a guy like J.J. McCarthy who, really got about 2.5 quarters of real game play in and say, this is what, I'm so excited about working with you, and this is how we're going to do it, and this is how you have to hold up your end of the bargain. So everything's transparent. There's nothing behind door number 2 that leaves people wondering what if, and they can have total clarity, so we can all attack this thing the right way in the offseason. But the continuity piece you mentioned, Brian Flores is one example, Matt Daniels, Wes Phillips, Brian Angelico, Chris Cooper. And then as we really reflect on the previous season, there's no meeting that takes place where we acknowledge something that we need to improve on without a plan, or at least the starting point to go do that. And we've done that a few times together. Year 4, I can't believe it's already going to be year 4, but so fortunate, incredibly fortunate to be the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, and that's not lost on me one single day.
You know better than anybody, man. If you don't have the right quarterback, you're not going to win the Super Bowl.
Yep.
That's a 99%er right there. How about your quarterback stock when it comes to sustainability? Now, what's next for Darnold? I mean, that's a wonderful chip to have.
Yeah.
I heard you with some interviews at the Super Bowl, kind of what you said about Cousins last year. He's earned the right to test things.
Well, what I meant by that, and it's probably, I'm glad you asked that, is all I mean by that is, remember something, like Sam Darnold was a free agent 1 year ago.
Yeah.
And I believe people view him differently now.
Yeah.
And that's that that right of going on a wild journey and putting his trust in us and his teammates for the 2024 season, and what a year he had. Ultimately, Sam would be the first one to talk about, just like I do. The end didn't match up with maybe how we saw it going down, but that doesn't change the fact of what he was able to do. And I think people around the league have recognized that, and rightly so, for the vision that I know I personally had for the player and building that relationship with Sam. That's really what I meant by that.
Yeah.
Now, the circumstances from now until the start of the league year are obviously going to be important for all of us to figure out the short and long term.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the quarterback room. I believe, a quarterback, that depth chart and that those bodies in that room are very, very important. And the fact that we finished the year with the type of room that we had, both the youth, the success currently of Sam, a guy like Daniel Jones coming in, and then knowing where J.J. McCarthy's at, like I said, you just feel fortunate because there's a lot of teams who would sign up to trade spots with us right now in regards to their quarterback room in the landscape of both the present and the future.
And where I was going with Sam is that relationships, have to go to the side a little bit this time of the year. I mean, it's you players and coaches can't say it's a business and hear it out of one ear and then not hear the rest of it out of the other. So that's what I'm getting at now is not only do you have a quarterback who was incredibly successful last year, you also have a chip. There's a potential chip there too, or maybe it's a quarterback for another team. But then you have McCarthy. But Daniel Jones is so fascinating to me, man. He's a free, and he's going to, he's set to hit free agency too. So who knows where he'll be? Hopefully here. But it's with Daniel and the time he got to decompress.
Yep.
Like Sam got that full year in San Francisco to learn from some of the best in the meeting rooms and stuff. Well, Daniel got a chance to turn out a little bit, go out to pasture for a little bit, and just be a person. You don't have to be a New York-based high-pressure quarterback.
Yeah.
What did you notice about him during that time?
Well, I'm glad you kind of presented it like that because that was very similar. I spent a lot of time, talking to Daniel and the word recruiting is the wrong word because that would not be authentic to my love of the quarterback position and ultimately what I wanted to provide for him was a really 2 or 3 part process. The first part was decompressing and just taking a step back, being around Josh McCown and those quarterbacks in the meeting room, spending some time one-on-one with me, just observing a different way of doing things and our way of doing things. And that's why I thought it was very important to try to get him there because you mentioned Sam's time in San Francisco and his journey from his first team to inevitably his 4th team with us this year. There was time. Daniel, because of how things went down, was now in the middle of a season at which he went into the season as the starting quarterback in a huge market, pressure-packed market. Let's take a step back. Let's just be right where our feet are planted today and have a great day here and acknowledge and really, take a page out of my failed quarterback journey scrapbook of the one thing I never did was miss an op to observe Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, what we did in New York when I was with the Jets, being around, different ways of doing things. And I said, you are going to be a successful quarterback in this league. I know it. I believe it in my heart. But this is a critical time for you to take a step back. And then right about 3, 4, 5 weeks into that, he started to really feel like, okay, I'm comfortable here. I like it here. Now it was about, hey, let's get you ready in case you were called upon to go in the football game and play for us. What would that look like? And then the third part of that is now the sequence we're in now where he's going to go through a process to try to figure out what the best foot forward is for him in regards to where he'll play next year. And, I'm a big Daniel Jones fan and have really, really enjoyed getting to be around him. And, I think I speak for everybody in our organization when I say although he didn't ever step foot and play for us, it was still an incredible positive experience for us, and I believe it was for Daniel.
Yes, sir.
Stay with the Joneses, Aaron Jones. I went back, and you get a chance to watch, I mean, obviously not as much as you do, but I was surprised at the number of, let's say, 15 to 10 to 15-yard plays that he was responsible for, especially even out of the backfield.
Yep.
And then you take he's a bit more important to this offense, I think, than the numbers, even though he had the best year of his career. But he's still a very important part of this offense, is he not?
He absolutely is. Aaron Jones, I was actually in a roundabout way, not very far from where I'm sitting now, when the idea of Aaron Jones, first was planted in my head last year. Mm-hmm. And I could tell you from that point forward, what I envisioned for Aaron came totally to fruition based upon, first and foremost, he's one of the greatest human beings I've ever met, in my NFL journey. Secondly, he is a very, very talented, great fit in our offense because of that skill set. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he does. He very rarely gets tackled on first contact. He very rarely doesn't find the yards that are there for him, and we've got to continue to do a better job creating more yards for him. And then his role in the pass game. And we threw him high cross routes, go balls. He caught, he had some huge 3rd and long conversions where we're just trying to get the ball in his hands and create a path for him to go get 12, 13, 15, whatever it was that we needed. And then people don't give him enough credit for his ability to step in there and put his face on somebody in pass protection.
His pass protection, that was kind of something you noticed his years at Green Bay.
Yep.
Was, hey, if you can blitz him and keep him in the backfield, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But he really got better as a pass protector over the with his time with us, from what we remember from Green Bay.
And then we got a great impact from Cam, and obviously Ty had his moments as well. But Aaron Jones was really the featured back, and for the better part of his career, he's really been a 1A, 1B with somebody. So to have a career year, both really in the all-purpose yard phase, rushing from a standpoint of what he was able to do, and he was able to overcome some things throughout the year where he showed toughness. He showed his ability to maybe not have a full week of preparation but go out there and play lights-out football when we needed him to. He had a huge impact on our organization. I'm glad you asked about him.
You have your press conference coming up soon, and I've wanted to ask you this for a while, but I wanted to do it in person. You've said a bunch of times, your season closing press conference, the one in Arizona with a PFT, just all the stuff that I've seen over the last month and change, that the way you put it was, and I have to be better. So you'll finish the sentence, and I have to be better, and I have to be better. When you say that, what do you mean?
I just mean it always will. I hope people understand, and I think you do. You know me well enough by now to know, like, when I say things, I mean them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, there's got to be a follow-up and a reflection that goes with saying something like that. It always has to start with me from a standpoint of chasing improvement, growing in my role, making sure, am I doing everything I can to make every single person in our building feel like they are improving, feel like they are working towards that common goal, feel like they are taking on the persona, what we want in our organization, of trying to do things individually to the best of your abilities to help a greater goal, help the person, the player next to you be better at their jobs. And that's how team football gets created. And it has to start with me. And our players know this because I'm honest with them. I never stand before them and tell them anything that is not truthful or factual or not authentically what I really believe. And it's going to always start with me, and that's just the way I believe, leadership should be, not because it's, in a book somewhere. It's because I believe that that's the best way for our organization to be at their best. Is the head football coach better be constantly trying to grow, adapt, improve, and ultimately chase the things that we talk about chasing, which are very important to our fans, to our ownership, to everybody in our organization, which is we want to continue to have opportunities to chase a Lombardi trophy. And to do that, PA, as you know, it's a very hard thing to do, but I do believe that is not a stealth expectation. That is not a goal outside the framework of what we can accomplish, and it's what we work every day to do.
And now with the offseason, there will be change, not only with players, but your assistant offensive line coach is gone. Strength and conditioning moves to Carolina. The one I want to hit on is I saw so many wonderful surrogate big brother, little brother interactions between you and Grant Udinski.
Yep.
And not a lot of people know Grant's name unless I'm talking about, hey, this is the one that works with Jaron Hall or works with Daniel Jones on Fridays. And after Kevin talks, I see him for a half hour. And Grant's super, super sharp and super adventurous. And he's become the offensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yep.
And how did you see that coming at such a young age for him? It doesn't surprise you at all, does it?
Well, I tried to keep him a secret for as long as I could. But we found out the hard way that maybe folks listening at home or Vikings fans maybe didn't have a great appreciation for Grant. But I found out the hard way the NFL certainly did. I think he interviewed for 5 coordinator jobs. He's still a very young coach. He hadn't had the opportunity to run his own position room yet. And now he's the offensive coordinator of one of 32 teams in the world. And Grant's incredibly prepared, one of the smartest football coaches I've ever been around. Really, really enjoyed our journey together. Believe it or not, 3 years ago, I brought him in really as the chief of staff, where I envisioned a job where as a first-time head coach, trying to also be a play caller, build an offensive system, build a team, and be available to everyone. I knew I would need kind of that right-hand man from a football standpoint too. So Grant and I, if you logged all the hours that him and I spent one-on-one together, Leo O'Connell might be starting to question, who's the most important person in my life just based on that. So,
and your father Bill, who's listening now.
he
texted me. He told me.
We both know he is.
Right.
But I would tell you this: I'm so proud of Grant. His football journey, where he's at now, and now he gets to work with some great people. We saw one of them walk by a few minutes ago, Liam Cohen, and he's going to be a huge asset for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and one that, I know Wes and the rest of our offensive staff, we're going to miss him, and we've got to make sure we, find the best path to try to replace some of Grant's value that we had, which was tremendous.
Ekstrom and NFL media guy are all over me right now. Your press conference is right around the corner. I have to ask you this. From a media standpoint, we hear a lot of interior defensive line running backs really deep in this draft.
Yep.
Do you find that to be accurate?
Yeah,
from what you know now.
With free agency and the process of kind of working through our own team, I'm really diving into the draft now, and I can tell you, we had a great start to our formals last night. Our interview process here all D linemen, and they were fantastic. Early indications are, on first watch of some of these running backs, there's some really quality players that, throughout the draft. I think there's a lot of different versatile types on the offensive line as well. So I think it's going to be a critical draft. We don't have obviously a lot of picks, but we're going to make the picks we do have count. And look forward to seeing how it all shakes out. But Indianapolis, always part of the process. Look at them.
I'm getting admonished now by the NFL. We have to go. Well, I'm glad you're watching a lot of college film, okay, because that takes you away from the Lions and Rams debacles last year and not watching that 15 and 20 times each, okay?
Well, now that you just brought it up, I'm going to head back and watch it one more time.
See you, bud. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, Coach.
NFL Combine, this is the 2024 NFL Coach of the Year right here.